I never believed in ghosts. Even now, I want to tell you I still don't. I've always been the logical one, the type who trusts evidence, not superstition. The sort of person who laughs at hauntings and horror stories because, hey, there's always a rational explanation. Or at least I used to believe that. But a few months ago, something happened to me that shook me in a way I can't fully explain. I was in my junior year at a university in Ohio. To help cover tuition, I worked part-time at a small real estate office near campus. Nothing fancy, mostly photographing rentals and uploading the images. One quiet Sunday in mid-September, I got assigned to take listing photos for an apartment, Unit 602, in an older mid-rise building near campus. The place had been empty for over a year. The landlord wanted to finally put it on the market again. Easy work. Go in, shoot, upload, leave. Normal day, normal job. Funny how the ordinary days are the ones that change you. I arrived early with a coworker's sister who came along to help. The landlord wasn't there yet. We figured he might already be upstairs, so we took the elevator to the 6th floor and found 602. We knocked, no answer. Pressed the doorbell, nothing. We were literally about to leave when the intercom on the door crackled alive. A shaky, elderly voice whispered, "Who's there?" We froze. That voice did not belong to the landlord. And remember, the apartment was supposed to be empty. No tenants, no staging crew, nothing. We looked at each other confused. Maybe we have the wrong floor, maybe someone was visiting, maybe it was nothing. That's what I told myself anyway, because the truth felt wrong. We headed back downstairs. Something already felt off, heavy, but curiosity and routine kept me moving. The landlord finally arrived. We rode back up and he unlocked the door. The moment I stepped inside, the air felt paused. Not stale, frozen, like the room hadn't taken a breath in a year. It was nearly empty. Just a couch against a wall, a dusty table, blinds half pulled, letting in weak daylight. The coworker's sister sat on the couch while I got my camera out. Simple real estate flash setup. I adjusted settings, lifted the camera, and snapped a test shot. Flash. Check screen. Normal. I turned to photograph the living room. Flash. And in that split second, I saw movement. A figure, a human silhouette crossing the room right in front of me. Not a shadow from the furniture, not someone behind me. A person-shaped form drifting silently across my frame. My heart stuttered. I whipped around. She was still on the couch. The landlord was by the kitchen. No one had moved. "Did either of you just walk by?" I asked. They both looked confused. "No. Why?" I didn't answer. I didn't want to sound crazy. Instead, I checked the camera screen. And there it was. A dark, human-shaped motion blur right across the center of the photo. Not dust, not exposure glitch, not a lighting artifact. Movement from something that shouldn't have been there. We didn't discuss it. No jokes, no nervous laughter. We left that apartment the second reality caught up to us. For once in my life, I didn't try to explain anything. Instinct just kicked in. That building felt wrong. Back at the office, adrenaline was still running through me. I showed the photo. Everyone went silent. This wasn't a maybe shadow. It was there, distinct, human. I uploaded the photos to our internal system like always. Policy says once they're uploaded, wipe the camera. So I did. But before wiping it, I tried sending that ghost photo to myself, my Gmail. The email arrived. The attachment was blank. Not corrupted, just empty. I tried again and again. Dropbox, iCloud, iMessage. Every time, nothing. It was like the file refused to exist anywhere outside that office drive. Like it didn't want to be shared. I sat there staring at my screen, my skin crawling. The next morning, I reopened the database at work and pulled up the image again, and I did the only thing left. I took out my phone and snapped a picture of the computer monitor. Not a download, not a copy, just a photo of the screen. That worked. Later that night in my dorm, I opened my phone and just stared at it. That same dark human-shaped silhouette in the middle of a white room, frozen mid-step. It didn't even look blurry anymore. It looked present, like if I stared too long, it would move again. My chest felt tight. My dorm room suddenly felt too quiet, too still, like I'd brought something back with me.
I want you to imagine this for a second. You move into your first apartment, excited for your new life. You turn off the lights, lie down on your bed, and just as you drift off, something wakes you up. And when your eyes open, there's a man standing directly above you, staring straight down at your face. That's exactly what happened to me. And believe me, the first night wasn't even the worst part. Because what came after didn't just scare me, it left a mark on my body that stayed for months. Right after high school, I moved across the country to start my first full-time job. The company I joined offered employee housing, basically a small studio apartment in a quiet Midwestern town. It wasn't fancy, but it was new, clean, and honestly, I felt proud. It was my first place on my own. The first night, I remember lying down on my fresh sheets thinking, yeah, this is the start of something good. But sometime after midnight, I woke up suddenly. No noise, no nightmare, just that strange sense that someone else is in the room. And when my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I saw him. A man leaning over me, so close his shadow swallowed the shape of my bed. His face was so pale it almost glowed, and on his head he wore this bright red cap, like it was the only part of him that still had color. He didn't speak, didn't blink, didn't even breathe. He just stared. I tried asking, "What do you want?" But he stayed silent like a statue. And after what felt like a full minute of this horrifying stillness, he simply vanished. No dramatic fade, no sound. Just gone. I lay there frozen, trying to convince myself I hallucinated it. But something about the room felt wrong, heavy, cold. Still, I forced myself back to sleep, trying not to think about the man in the red hat. I wish I knew then he wasn't done with me. The second night, he came back. Same time, same position, same dead silent stare. Third night, same thing. By the end of the week, it was almost like he had a schedule. 2 or 3 a.m., the man in the red hat shows up. He never spoke, never moved, just stood over me every single night like some silent reminder that I wasn't alone. And here's the weirdest part. I got used to it. Fear turned into this strange, tired acceptance. I'd wake up, see him, and just lie there thinking, okay, it's you again. One night, half asleep and exhausted, I literally said out loud, "All right, dude, you're back. Good for you." That was the moment everything changed. Because until then, he was only watching. That night, he decided to do something else. Right after I spoke, my entire left side suddenly went numb. Not pins and needles, I mean dead weight. My right side could move fine, but my left side felt like concrete poured over my body. Then my throat seized. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get out a single sound. I couldn't scream, I couldn't whisper. And then I felt breath. Cold breath.
The man in the red hat leaned down until I could feel his presence right against my ear, and in this chilling whisper that slid straight into my head, he said, "I'll make your body unable to move." The voice didn't sound like it came from the room. It felt like it came from inside my skull, vibrating through my brain. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe right. I couldn't call for help. And all I could think was, this isn't sleep paralysis. Something is doing this to me. But he wasn't done yet. Just when I thought I was about to pass out from fear, a new sensation hit me. A tearing, burning pain ripped across my left calf, like someone had taken a red-hot iron and pressed it into my skin. I tried to thrash, but my left side was useless. The pain was so sharp and brutal that my vision blurred. I genuinely thought something was ripping my leg open. And then everything went black. I woke up later, I don't know when, able to move again. My throat was sore, my calf still throbbed. But the man in the red hat was gone. I convinced myself I just had a nightmare brought on by stress. That's what rational me wanted to believe. But the moment I swung my legs over the bed, I felt a bolt of pain shoot through my calf. I lifted my pant leg and froze. There was a deep human bite mark on my left calf. Clear teeth indentations, bruised purple around the entire shape. I stared at it thinking, someone or something bit me. And the bruise stayed there for almost 2 months. That was the moment I knew I wasn't imagining any of it. The next morning, I went straight to my supervisor and told them everything. Not even the paranormal part. I just said someone was in my room, I was attacked, and I needed to move. And the response I got? Oh yeah, the last guy who stayed in that room said he saw a ghost too. I never saw anything myself though. They already knew, and they still put me there. When I demanded a different unit, they shrugged and said everything else was full, no exceptions. So I was stuck for 2 years with the man in the red hat. To this day, I don't know what that thing was. I don't know why it targeted me or why it stood over my bed night after night. But that bite mark, that was real. And sometimes late at night, when I can't sleep, I think about his last words. "I'll make your body unable to move." I still tell people I don't believe in ghosts, but every now and then I catch myself watching the shadows a little longer than I should. Because once something like that happens to you, you stop worrying about whether you believe in ghosts and start wondering whether they believe in you.
Everyone's afraid of the dark for a reason, because sometimes it's not the dark itself that's scary. It's what's already in it. When I moved into my first apartment, I was thrilled. New job, new city, new start. But from the very first day, one thing in that room felt wrong. A wardrobe. I brushed it off as nerves, but within weeks, that piece of furniture went from creepy to something I'll never forget. Because what came out of that wardrobe didn't just scare me, it left a mark that lasted for months. Right after high school, I moved from North Carolina to Tampa for my first full-time job. My friend and I split and furnished apartment, 5th floor, decent rent, clean place. When we opened the door for the first time, the air smelled faintly of varnish and old wood. And right there against the wall stood this huge dark brown wardrobe, older than everything else in the room. I hated it instantly. Something about it felt alive. I told my friend, "You take that thing. I'll hang my clothes on a rack." They laughed, but I meant it. Still, for nearly 2 months, nothing happened. Until the night, everything changed. It started around 2 a.m. I woke up feeling weightless, like invisible hands had slid under me and were lifting me from the bed. At first I thought I was dreaming, but then I looked down. I could see myself still lying there. My heart dropped. It was like my body was split in two, one part floating, one part frozen. The room was ice cold and silent, the kind of silence that swallows sound. Panic kicked in. I started whispering every prayer I could remember from childhood, anything that might pull me back. But then, something whispered with me. A voice, low, distorted, not in English. It repeated my words in rhythm, almost mocking. And in my half-awake panic, I nearly followed along. Then something in me snapped. No! I stopped praying and just screamed in my head, cursing, shouting at whatever it was to leave me alone. And that's when it ended. Everything went black. Then, thump! I slammed back into my body. I gasped awake, trembling, drenched in sweat. I should have called someone, packed my things, something. Instead, I just fell back asleep. Morning came like nothing happened. At work, I told one of my older co-workers about it. Her face went pale. She asked, "Did you realize last night was the new moon eve? You need to do a house blessing, buy flowers, light a candle, and say a prayer to your home." Before I could respond, another co-worker added, "Oh yeah, someone died in that complex years ago. Jumped from the balcony, I think. No one remembers which floor though." That made my stomach drop. But that night, I did what they said anyway. After work, I stopped at a corner store, bought a small candle and a bouquet and set them near that wardrobe. I whispered a simple prayer. "Please, whoever's here, I respect you. Just let me live in peace." It actually felt lighter afterward. By midnight, I was scrolling on my phone, music playing softly, the room warm again. For the first time all week, I relaxed. Then, thump, that deep leather sofa sound, the one you hear when someone suddenly sits down. I froze. I told myself it was just the AC rattling something. I turned over, facing away from the couch. Then, thump, louder, closer. It felt like whoever or whatever sat down had just moved nearer to my bed. The silence after that was thick enough to choke on. I turned up my phone's volume, covered my head with a pillow, and eventually drifted into a restless sleep. And of course, I woke up at exactly 3 a.m. The devil's hour, they call it. The room was pitch dark, except for the streetlight glow leaking through the blinds. I stared blankly toward my headboard, trying not to move. My bed's headboard has a glossy panel, a faint mirror. In it, I saw something move, a soft, blurred motion gliding behind me. I went completely still, my pulse hammering so hard it hurt. Then I heard it. Long nails dragging slowly down wood, coming from the wardrobe, the one I'd avoided since the day I moved in. Each scrape was louder, longer, closer to the handle. I couldn't breathe, couldn't even blink. I squeezed my eyes shut, pretending to sleep, counting the seconds until dawn. When sunlight finally bled through the blinds, I was still lying stiff as a board. The apartment looked normal, too normal, but the wardrobe door was slightly open. I didn't check, didn't need to. That afternoon, I emailed my landlord and gave notice. Didn't even finish the lease. I just said, personal reasons. When my coworkers asked why I moved, I joked. Didn't like the furniture. But inside, I knew exactly what I was leaving behind.